Hello, wrestling world. This is Backstage Slam Reports, giving you the latest stories and surprises from WWE. Hit subscribe, and let's go. Raw opened with a tension so thick, it felt like the entire arena was holding its breath. Backstage, the atmosphere pulsed with electricity as CM Punk marched down the hallway with a fury that could have melted steel. The lights overhead flickered against the walls, bouncing off camera rigs and equipment crates, while crew members scrambled to get out of his path. With every step Punk took, the questions surrounding the mysterious hooded attacker from Survivor Series War Games seemed to echo louder. The attack had left him rattled, wounded, and more determined than ever to uncover the truth. His voice cut through the murmur of backstage chatter as he demanded answers, real answers, from anyone who had even a whisper of information. Staff members exchanged nervous glances, unsure whether to speak up or stay out of his line of fire. The energy around Punk wasn't just anger, it was obsession. He wanted to know who stole Seth Rollins' finishing move and used it against him. He wanted to know who humiliated him in front of the world. And most importantly, he wanted to know why. Raw didn't feel like a show anymore. It felt like a boiling point. When the past walked out of the dark, just when the tension seemed ready to snap, a shadow near the far end of the hallway began to shift. Punk's footsteps slowed. Crew members froze and whispered. Out of the darkness stepped a figure with a walk so familiar that anyone who watched WWE before would recognize it instantly. The raw, rugged stride of a man who once defined chaos. The hood stayed up for a second longer, building suspense like a tightly coiled spring. And then, with a slow, deliberate motion, the stranger pulled the hood back. It was Jon Moxley, the same Moxley who had walked into countless wars, who had bled, brawled, and clawed through every obstacle in his path. The same man who once shared a locker room, victories, betrayals, and history with Punk. The air thickened instantly. Punk's fists clenched at his sides, his jaw tightening as if the very sight of Moxley resurfaced years of unfinished business. And Moxley didn't come out smiling or sneering. He came out steady, confident, and loaded with intent. He took one step forward, then another, closing the distance until the only sound left was the hum of the backstage lights overhead. The moment Moxley revealed the truth. Moxley didn't make Punk wait. He didn't circle around the truth or toss out empty threats. He leaned forward, voice low and razor sharp, and told Punk exactly what he came to hear, and what he wished he hadn't. "You wanted the truth, Punk," he said, each word punctuated with years' worth of history. "It was me." The hallway seemed to exhale and freeze at the same time. Moxley admitted he was the one under the hood at Survivor Series. He was the one who climbed the cage. He was the one who used Seth Rollins' stomp, not to mock Rollins, but to send a message that would cut straight into Punk's mind. Moxley explained that he borrowed a little visionary flavor, not for Rollins' sake, but to shake Punk to his core, to remind him that no matter how many matches Punk won, or how loud the crowds cheered, there were still ghosts from his past he hadn't escaped. Punk's eyes narrowed as every muscle in his body tensed with restrained fury. The history between Punk and Moxley is not simple. It's layered, jagged, and full of unresolved edges. And in that moment, all the old wounds reopened. Moxley watched Punk's reaction with a grin, feral, unbothered, and fearless. He wasn't just here to reveal the truth. He was here to provoke something deeper. The challenge that changed everything. As the tension thickened, Moxley stepped even closer, the grin on his face growing sharper, almost hungry. "And I'm not finished," he said, making Punk's stare grow even colder. The energy between them was no longer just heat. It was threat, history, pride, and rivalry all colliding at once. Moxley made his intentions brutally clear. Raw wasn't big enough for the two of them. Not with their past, not with their egos, not with their need to dominate. For Moxley, this wasn't about a sneak attack anymore. It was about pushing Punk into a collision course. He wanted Punk uncomfortable. He wanted Punk angry. And most importantly, he wanted Punk to fight him again. Not out of pride, but out of necessity. "Unless one of us breaks first," Moxley added, leaving the words hanging in the air like the first crack of a brewing storm. Punk didn't speak, didn't blink, didn't move. His fists curled, knuckles turning white, but he held himself back. He didn't want to give Moxley the satisfaction of seeing him snap. Not yet. Raw had been filled with surprises before, but this moment felt like a shift in the entire landscape. Old rivalries were resurfacing, new tensions were forming, and the fallout was bound to reshape the path toward the next big event. Moxley walked past Punk slowly, never taking his eyes off him, and with every step, the rivalry felt less like a storyline and more like a storm waiting to explode. Where Punk goes from here. When Moxley disappeared into the corridor, the backstage area erupted with whispers. CM Punk stood frozen for a moment, absorbing everything he had just heard. The man behind the attack wasn't some hired gun, some secret Vision member, or some rising star looking for attention. It was a ghost from Punk's past, a rival who shared his battles and scars, a man who knew exactly where to hit him, physically and mentally. What comes next for Punk is the million-dollar question. Does he confront Moxley head-on? Does he demand a match? Does he hunt him through Raw until they collide in the ring? Punk has never been the type to ignore a challenge, especially one delivered with such blatant disrespect. But he's also smart, strategic, calculated, and he knows Moxley doesn't fight fair. He fights chaotic. The coming weeks could push Punk into some of the most unpredictable confrontations of his career. Fans are already speculating who Punk should face next. Should he battle Moxley immediately? Should he seek revenge for Survivor Series? Or does this open the door for an even bigger storyline involving other names connected to both men? The Raw roster is full of combustible possibilities, and Punk stands right at the center of the storm. For now, the only certainty is that things are far from over. And the next time Punk and Moxley meet, it won't be in a quiet hallway.